Finn the human is the main character of Adventure Time, and his name was not always Finn. In the original pilot episode that Pendleton Ward created in 2007, the character was called Pen, named after the creator himself. When Cartoon Network picked up the series for full production, they changed the name to Finn because they felt it was a stronger name for a hero character. The original Pen design was also slightly different, with a rounder head shape and a rougher overall look that was refined when the show went to series. Finn is one of the few human characters in the Land of Ooo, and for most of the series, he appears to be the only human. This becomes a significant part of his identity and his journey throughout the show. The reason there are so few humans is connected to the Mushroom War, a nuclear apocalypse that happened roughly 1,000 years before the events of the show. Finn's existence as a human in a world of candy people, talking animals, and magical creatures makes him special in ways the show explores gradually over its run. The voice of Finn is provided by Jeremy Shada, and one of the most interesting facts about Jeremy Shada's performance is that he grew up alongside the character. When the show began, Jeremy Shada was around 12 years old, the same age as Finn. As the series progressed over its 8-season run, both Jeremy and Finn aged. Finn's voice deepened naturally because Jeremy's voice was deepening. The show acknowledged this by actually aging Finn throughout the series, which is unusual for animated shows where characters typically stay the same age forever. By the time the series finale aired, Finn was 17 years old, and you can hear the difference in his voice compared to early episodes. This aging process gave Finn's character arc a sense of real growth that most animated protagonists never get. He starts as an enthusiastic kid who just wants to go on adventures, and he ends as a young man who has experienced loss, heartbreak, identity crises, and genuine emotional development. Finn's iconic hat, the white bear-eared hat he wears in almost every episode, has become one of the most recognizable pieces of clothing in animation. The hat covers his blonde hair, which is rarely seen in the show. When his hair is revealed, it is long and flowing, which became a running visual gag. The hat itself is implied to be made from the fur of a bear, and Finn has a deep attachment to it. In some episodes, losing the hat or having it damaged is treated as a significant emotional moment. The design of Finn is deliberately simple. He has a round head, simple dot eyes, and a body that is easy to animate in various poses. This simplicity was intentional because Adventure Time used a storyboard-driven production process where artists needed to draw characters quickly and consistently. Finn's simple design allowed for expressive animation without requiring complex details in every frame. Finn's sword changes multiple times throughout the series, and each sword represents a different phase of his character development. He starts with a simple golden sword, then acquires various magical and cursed swords as the show progresses. The grass sword, which bonds to his arm and eventually becomes part of a complex storyline involving Fern, is one of the most significant. The Finn sword, created from an alternate timeline version of himself, raises philosophical questions about identity that the show takes seriously. Finn loses his right arm multiple times across various episodes and timelines. This recurring motif eventually becomes permanent when the grass sword separates from him and becomes its own entity. The show handles Finn's disability with surprising maturity, showing him adapting and continuing his adventures with prosthetics or simply with one arm. It never becomes his defining characteristic, but it also is not ignored. Finn's romantic relationships throughout the series are portrayed with unusual honesty for a children's show. His crush on Princess Bubblegum is one-sided, and eventually he has to accept that she does not feel the same way. His relationship with Flame Princess is complicated by their physical incompatibility and by Finn's own immaturity at the time. These relationships are not played purely for comedy. They are shown as genuinely painful experiences that shape who Finn becomes. Finn's biological father, Martin Mertens, is eventually revealed and turns out to be genuinely selfish and neglectful. Unlike many absent parent storylines where the parent has a secret heart of gold, Martin is simply not a good person. He abandoned Finn as a baby, and when they reunite, Martin continues to prioritize himself over his son. This portrayal was surprisingly harsh for the show, but it felt honest. Not every absent parent has a redemption arc waiting to happen. Finn's mother is revealed in the Islands miniseries to be Minerva, a helper robot who uploaded her consciousness to continue serving the human community that survived the Mushroom War. The Islands storyline reveals that humans did survive the apocalypse, living on islands far from the Land of Ooo. Finn is not the last human after all, but he chooses to return to Ooo rather than stay with the human colony because Ooo is his home. The catchphrase that Finn uses throughout the series, words like algebraic and mathematical, as expressions of excitement, became part of the show's identity. These invented slang words gave the show a distinctive voice and created shared vocabulary among fans. The phrases feel natural within the show's world, like language that evolved in Ooo over 1,000 years of post-apocalyptic development. Finn's character represents the show's core theme of growth and change. He begins as a simple hero who wants to fight evil and save princesses, and he ends as someone who understands that heroism is complicated, that good and evil are not always clear, and that growing up means accepting loss and uncertainty. His journey mirrors the journey of the show itself, which started as a goofy adventure comedy and evolved into something much deeper. Finn's hat has an interesting history within the show's lore. It is suggested to be made from a bear that Finn fought or found, and he has worn it for most of his life. The attachment he has to the hat is emotional, not just practical. When the hat is damaged or lost, Finn reacts as though part of his identity is at risk. The hat is also functional in the show's world, protecting his head and keeping his long hair contained. Finn's role as a hero in Ooo is recognised by most of the inhabitants. He is not just someone who goes on adventures for fun. He is seen as a protector, someone people call when they need help. This role gives him status and responsibility, but it also creates expectations he sometimes struggles to meet. The pressure of being the hero is part of what the show explores, especially in later seasons when Finn questions what heroism really means. Finn's simple design extends to his expressions, which are highly readable despite being minimal. His dot eyes can convey a wide range of emotions through their position and the shapes of his eyebrows. This simplicity is part of what makes Finn work as a character. He is easy to project onto, easy to understand, and easy to animate in ways that communicate clearly. The original pilot that introduced Finn, then called Pen, circulated online and became viral, which is what attracted Cartoon Network's attention. The pilot has a rougher quality than the finished series, but the essential appeal was already there. The humour, the relationship between the main characters, and the strange world they inhabit were all present in that 7-minute short. Finn's journey from 12 to 17 across the series is one of the longest character arcs in animated television. Most shows keep their characters static, but Adventure Time committed to showing Finn grow up. This meant dealing with topics that children's shows often avoid, like romantic rejection, loss of innocence, and the realization that your heroes are flawed. Finn's arc is a coming-of-age story told across hundreds of episodes. Jake the dog is Finn's best friend, adoptive brother, and constant companion throughout Adventure Time. He is a magical dog with the ability to stretch and reshape his body into almost any form, which makes him incredibly useful in adventures, but also raises interesting questions about what Jake actually is. For most of the series, Jake's powers are treated as simply part of who he is, but eventually the show reveals an origin that is much stranger than anyone expected. Jake's stretching powers come from a shape-shifting alien creature that attacked his father Joshua during her investigation. The creature bit Joshua, and the resulting wound eventually produced Jake, who emerged from his father's head as a puppy. This means Jake is not entirely a normal dog. He is part alien, and his powers are inherited from an extraterrestrial source. This revelation, shown in the episode Joshua and Margaret Investigations, recontextualizes Jake's abilities as biological rather than simply magical. The voice of Jake is provided by John DiMaggio, who is also famous for voicing Bender in Futurama and many other characters. DiMaggio brings a relaxed, laid-back quality to Jake that defines the character. Jake's voice sounds like someone who has figured out how to be comfortable in any situation, which matches his personality perfectly. He is the calm counterweight to Finn's intensity, the older brother who has perspective that Finn lacks. Jake is technically older than Finn, though the exact age difference is never precisely stated. He is more experienced and often serves as a mentor figure, giving Finn advice about life, relationships, and dealing with problems. Jake's advice is not always correct, but it is usually well-intentioned, and the show treats his wisdom as genuine, even when it is flawed. He represents a certain kind of laid-back philosophy about life that balances Finn's more intense approach. Jake's relationship with Lady Rainicorn is one of the show's most consistent romantic relationships. Lady Rainicorn is a rainbow-coloured creature who speaks Korean throughout the series, and her dialogue is not subtitled. Korean-speaking viewers understand what she says, while other viewers experience her the way Finn initially does, as meaningful but incomprehensible. Jake learned Korean to communicate with her, which is mentioned but not shown in detail. Jake and Lady Rainicorn have children together, and these children age rapidly due to their magical nature. The pups, as they are called, grow from infants to adults almost immediately, which means Jake experiences fatherhood in a compressed and unusual way. He does not get to raise his children in the traditional sense because they are already grown shortly after being born. This creates a strange dynamic where Jake has adult children he barely knows. Jake's stretching powers are shown to have limits in some episodes, though these limits are inconsistent. He can stretch to enormous sizes, becoming large enough to carry buildings, but doing so requires effort and can leave him exhausted. He can also shrink to tiny sizes, fitting into small spaces or hiding in Finn's pocket. The flexibility of his powers makes him useful in almost any situation, which is why he is such a valuable adventure partner. Jake's body can take damage that would be fatal to most creatures, but his stretchy nature allows him to survive things like being torn apart or flattened. He has been shown recovering from injuries that seem impossible to recover from, which suggests his alien biology includes some form of enhanced healing or resilience. The show never fully explains the limits of what Jake can survive, leaving some ambiguity about how vulnerable he actually is. Jake's personality is defined by his relaxed attitude and his love of food. He is often shown eating sandwiches, making bacon pancakes, and generally enjoying simple pleasures. The Bacon Pancake song, a short tune Jake sings while cooking, became one of the most popular pieces of music from the show and spread widely online as a meme. It is a perfect example of how the show could create memorable moments from small, everyday scenes. Jake's relationship with his parents, Joshua and Margaret, is shown primarily through flashbacks. Joshua was a detective who investigated paranormal occurrences, and Margaret was his partner. They are shown as loving parents who kept certain secrets from Jake, including the truth about his alien origin. Jake's complicated feelings about learning the truth about his birth are handled with the show's typical mix of humour and genuine emotion. Jake has died and visited the afterlife during the series, an experience that changes his understanding of mortality without being treated as overly dramatic. The show's willingness to send characters to the afterlife and bring them back reflects its casual approach to cosmology. Death exists in Adventure Time as a character and as a place, and Jake's experience with it is another part of his surprisingly deep characterization. Jake's role in the show is often as the comic relief, but he is also capable of surprising depth. Episodes that focus on Jake's fears, his relationship with his children, or his feelings about his alien nature show a character who thinks about life more than his relaxed demeanor suggests. He masks a lot of complexity with his easygoing attitude, which the show gradually reveals over its run. Jake's stretchy powers have been used for countless creative visual gags throughout the series. He has become a boat, a parachute, a key, a giant fist, a shelter, and hundreds of other shapes. The animators clearly enjoyed finding new ways to use his abilities, and the creativity of Jake's transformations is one of the visual pleasures of the show. He is a character whose design allows for endless inventiveness. Jake's philosophy about life is often expressed through offhand comments and advice he gives to Finn. He tends to take a relaxed view of problems, suggesting that most things work out if you do not stress too much about them. This philosophy is sometimes wise and sometimes irresponsible, and the show does not always endorse it, but it is consistently part of who Jake is, a character who has decided that worrying helps nothing. The Bacon Pancake song deserves special mention because it demonstrates how the show could create cultural moments from tiny scenes. Jake, singing a simple song while making breakfast, became one of the most shared clips from the series. It was remixed, referenced, and spread across the internet in ways that the creators could not have predicted. It showed that Adventure Time's appeal extended beyond its storytelling to small moments of character. Jake's alien origin raises questions the show never fully answers. What exactly was the creature that bit his father? Where did it come from? Are there others like Jake? The show provides the origin, but leaves the implications unexplored, which fits its approach to world building. Not everything needs to be explained. Sometimes mysteries are more interesting than answers. Jake's design, a simple orange dog with large eyes and a black nose, is iconic in its simplicity. Like Finn, he is designed to be easy to animate while remaining expressive. His stretching adds complexity to his animation, but his base form is deliberately simple. The contrast between his ordinary dog appearance and his extraordinary abilities is part of what makes him work as a character. Jake's relationship with his brother Jermaine, who is a normal dog without stretching powers, adds another dimension to his character. Jermaine feels overshadowed by Jake and resents the way their parents seemed to favour Jake despite his strange origin. This sibling dynamic is explored in several episodes and shows that Jake's family situation is more complicated than it first appears. Jake's pups, his children with Lady Rainicorn, each have distinct personalities and abilities that blend their parents' traits. Some can stretch, some can phase through objects like Lady, and some have unique combinations of powers. The pups represent another generation in Ooo, a future that Jake helped create, even if he did not get to raise them in a traditional way. Jake's fear of vampires, which is played for comedy in early episodes, becomes more interesting when considered alongside his friendship with Marceline. He overcomes this fear through exposure and through genuinely getting to know Marceline as a person. It is a small arc, but a meaningful one, showing that Jake can grow and change, even in areas that seem like simple joke material. The Ice King is one of the most tragic characters in Adventure Time, though he does not appear that way when the show begins. In early episodes, he is presented as a comical villain who kidnaps princesses and annoys Finn and Jake with his bumbling schemes. He seems like a joke character, a lonely old wizard who is more pathetic than threatening. But as the series progresses, the show reveals his backstory, and the Ice King transforms from a simple antagonist into one of the most emotionally complex characters in animation. The Ice King was once a human man named Simon Petrikov. He was an antiquarian, a scholar who studied ancient artifacts. Before the Mushroom War, before the apocalypse that created the Land of Ooo, Simon discovered the ice crown at a dock sale in Scandinavia. He bought it as a curiosity, not knowing what it was. When he put it on as a joke, the crown began to affect his mind, granting him ice powers, but slowly erasing his sanity and his memories of who he had been. The crown's corruption happened gradually over years. Simon documented his own deterioration in video recordings, watching himself lose his grip on reality. He knew something was wrong. He could feel himself changing, but he could not stop it. The crown's magic was too powerful, and eventually Simon Petrikov was gone, replaced by the Ice King, a creature who has no memory of the man he used to be. Tom Kenny provides the voice of the Ice King, bringing both comedy and pathos to the character. Kenny is famous for voicing SpongeBob SquarePants, and his range allows the Ice King to be genuinely funny in some scenes and genuinely heartbreaking in others. The voice performance shifts subtly depending on whether the scene is comedic or emotional, giving the Ice King a depth that pure comedy would not allow. The Ice King's relationship with Marceline is one of the most important emotional threads in the series. Before the Mushroom War, when Simon was still himself, he found a young Marceline alone in the wreckage of the apocalypse. He took care of her, protected her, and became a father figure during the worst period of her life. But the crown was already affecting him. He was already losing himself. Eventually, he had to leave her to protect her from what he was becoming. Marceline remembers Simon. She remembers the kind man who saved her life and sang songs to her and gave her a stuffed toy named Hambo. But Simon, as the Ice King, does not remember Marceline at all. When they interact in the present day, she knows who he used to be, and he has no idea. This creates a painful dynamic where Marceline can see traces of Simon in the Ice King, but cannot reach him. The episode I Remember You is frequently cited as one of the greatest episodes of animated television. In this episode, the Ice King visits Marceline looking for help writing a song. Through their interaction, and through flashbacks, the audience learns the full weight of their shared history. The episode includes the song Remember You, performed by both characters, which expresses Marceline's grief for the man Simon used to be, and the Ice King's confusion about feelings he cannot understand. The ice crown itself has a complex origin. It was created by an ice elemental named Evergreen in the distant past, designed to stop a comet that was going to destroy the world. The crown's magic is tied to Evergreen's apprentice, Gunther, whose desperate wish to be like his master became embedded in the crown's power. This is why the crown makes its wearers act like Evergreen as perceived by Gunther, and why it slowly corrupts their minds. The Ice King's penguins, particularly the one named Gunther, are his constant companions. The main Gunther appears to be a simple penguin for most of the series, providing comic relief and companionship for the lonely Ice King. However, later revelations show that this Gunther is actually Orgolorg, an ancient cosmic entity that was banished to Earth and had its memories wiped. The seemingly innocent penguin contains something far more dangerous. The Ice King's attempts to kidnap princesses are explained as a compulsion he cannot fully control. The crown's magic drives him to capture princesses, possibly connected to Simon's lost love, Betty. He does not understand why he does it. He just feels compelled. This makes him a villain who is also a victim, someone doing harm because of a curse he never asked for and cannot escape. Betty Gruff was Simon's fiancée before the Mushroom War. She appears in the series after travelling through time to find Simon and try to save him. Betty's attempts to cure Simon become a significant storyline in later seasons, showing her desperation to restore the man she loves. Her journey does not end happily, but it adds another dimension to the Ice King's tragedy. Someone still loves Simon and is fighting to bring him back. The Ice King's characterization evolved significantly over the show's run. In early seasons, he is mostly comedic, with occasional hints of something deeper. In middle seasons, his backstory is revealed, and he becomes more sympathetic. In later seasons, he develops friendships with Finn and Jake, and becomes almost an ally, though still annoying and unpredictable. This evolution shows how the show was willing to develop even its joke characters. The resolution of Simon's story involves the crown being removed, but the removal comes at great cost. Simon is restored, but the process involves Betty sacrificing herself and merging with the cosmic entity Golb. Simon gets his mind back, but he loses Betty forever. It is a bittersweet ending that fits the show's approach to tragedy. You can sometimes get what you want, but rarely without losing something else. The Ice King's voice performance by Tom Kenny deserves recognition for its range. Kenny can play the Ice King as purely comedic, as pathetic, as threatening, or as heartbreaking, sometimes shifting between these modes within a single episode. The voice is distinctive, a nasally whine that can grate on other characters, but Kenny brings enough warmth to it that the Ice King never becomes truly annoying to watch. The Crown's origin story, told in the episode Evergreen, is one of the show's most creative pieces of world building. It takes an artifact that has defined the Ice King's tragedy and gives it a history that is itself tragic. Gunther, the dinosaur, just wanted to be like his master Evergreen, and that innocent wish became corrupted into a curse that would affect everyone who wore the crown for millions of years. The Ice King's fan fiction, where he writes stories about gender-swapped versions of Finn and Jake, called Fiona and Cake, became the basis for an entire spin-off series. What started as a joke about the Ice King's sad creative outlets eventually became legitimate Adventure Time content. The Fiona and Cake episodes were popular enough that they got their own show on HBO Max years later. The Ice King's kingdom, a realm of ice and snow in an otherwise temperate land, is one of the most distinctive locations in Ooo. He built it himself using his crown powers, creating a frozen domain that reflects his isolation and his loneliness. The kingdom is impressive but empty, a monument to a man who has forgotten why he built it. Simon Petrikov's video diaries, which appear in several episodes, are some of the most emotionally affecting content in the series. Watching a man document his own deterioration, knowing what he will become, is genuinely disturbing in a way that most children's shows never attempt. These diaries are the show at its darkest and most mature. The Ice King's relationship with his penguins provides him with companionship that asks nothing of him. The penguins do not judge him, do not expect him to be who he used to be, and do not require him to remember anything. They accept him as he is, which is something he desperately needs, given that he has lost the ability to maintain meaningful relationships with people who knew Simon. The Ice King's magic is powerful but erratic, reflecting his unstable mental state. He can create ice constructs, fly, and survive extreme cold, but he often fails at crucial moments because his concentration wavers or because he gets distracted by something trivial. His power is undermined by his damaged mind, which is another layer of his tragedy. Marceline the Vampire Queen is over 1,000 years old, which means she has lived through almost the entire history of the Land of Ooo. She was born before the Mushroom War, survived the apocalypse as a child, and has spent the centuries since watching the world change around her while she stayed the same. This gives her a perspective that no other main character has. She remembers what the world was like before, and she carries the weight of all that time. Marceline is a half-demon, half-human character, whose father is Hunson Abadir, the ruler of the Nightosphere. Her mother was human, which is why Marceline was a normal child before the apocalypse. The demon half of her heritage gives her supernatural abilities and a connection to the Nightosphere, a chaotic dimension that she has a complicated relationship with. She can access the Nightosphere, but does not particularly want to rule it. The vampire part of Marceline is separate from her demon heritage. She was not born a vampire. She became one later, during a period when she was hunting vampires to protect the remaining humans after the Mushroom War. During these hunts, she was bitten and transformed. The Stakes miniseries explores this history in detail, showing how Marceline became the Vampire Queen and what that transformation cost her. Marceline's voice is provided by Olivia Olson, who also sings the characters' songs. Marceline is a musician in the show, playing bass guitar and writing songs that often express her emotional state. Her bass, which she inherited from her mother, is one of her most prized possessions. The music she creates is a way of processing her feelings about her long life and the losses she has experienced. The relationship between Marceline and Princess Bubblegum is one of the show's most significant emotional arcs. The two characters have a complicated history that is hinted at throughout the series before being made explicit in later seasons. They were once very close, possibly romantically involved, before having a falling out that lasted centuries. Their gradual reconciliation across the series leads to the finale, where they share a kiss that confirmed their romantic relationship. The confirmation of Bublin, as fans call the Marceline and Bubblegum relationship, was a landmark moment for LGBTQ representation in children's animation. The show had to navigate network restrictions for years, only able to hint at the relationship rather than show it directly. The finale kiss was possible because standards had shifted by the time the show ended, and it was celebrated by fans who had been waiting for explicit confirmation. Marceline's relationship with her father, Hunson Abadir, is strained by his demonic nature and his attempts to make her embrace her darker side. He genuinely loves her in his own way, but his way involves trying to get her to eat souls and rule the Nightosphere. Marceline wants a normal relationship with her father, but has to constantly resist his influence. The dynamic is played for both comedy and genuine family drama. The song Fry Song, which Marceline performs in an early episode, reveals her deep emotional pain over her father eating her fries when she was a child. The song sounds absurd when described, a vampire queen singing about French fries, but in context it becomes a metaphor for all the ways her father disappointed her and was not there for her. It is one of the first hints that Marceline's comedic exterior hides real hurt. Marceline's survival of the Mushroom War is shown in flashbacks throughout the series. She was a young child when the bombs fell, alone in the wreckage of civilization. Simon Petrikov found her and took care of her, but his deterioration due to the crown meant she eventually lost him too. The image of young Marceline, alone in an apocalyptic landscape, is one of the most haunting in the show. Hambo, the stuffed toy that Simon gave to Marceline during the apocalypse, appears throughout the series as a symbol of her connection to that time. When Hambo is taken by the Sky Witch, Marceline is devastated, and the quest to retrieve him becomes a significant storyline. The toy represents her childhood, her relationship with Simon, and the small comforts that helped her survive the worst period of her life. Marceline's immortality means she has watched countless people she cared about grow old and die. This is addressed in various episodes, showing that her long life is both a gift and a burden. She has learned not to get too attached because everyone she loves will eventually be gone. This gives her relationships with Finn, Jake, and Bubblegum additional poignancy because she knows she will outlive them. The Stakes miniseries, which focuses entirely on Marceline's history and her decision to try to cure her vampirism, is one of the show's most concentrated pieces of storytelling. The miniseries explores what being a vampire means to her, what she gained and lost when she was transformed, and whether she would choose to be mortal if she could. The conclusion is ambiguous, fitting the show's approach to complex questions. Marceline's design evolved over the series, with her appearance changing slightly as the animation style matured. She is typically shown with long black hair, pale grey skin, and a casual rock musician aesthetic. Her bite marks on her neck are visible in some shots, a reminder of how she became what she is. Her visual design matches her personality, cool and detached on the surface, but hiding deeper emotions. Marceline's house, a cave that she has made comfortable, reflects her personality. It is dark and isolated, but also cozy, filled with music equipment and personal items. She lives apart from the other characters, but is not completely withdrawn. Her home is a space where she can be herself, away from the complications of the outside world, but available when she wants connection. The contrast between Marceline's age and her apparent youth creates interesting dynamics with other characters. She has centuries of experience, but looks like a young woman. She has seen empires rise and fall, but hangs out with a teenage boy and his dog. This contrast is part of her appeal. She is ancient but relatable, powerful but vulnerable, intimidating but capable of genuine warmth. Marceline's vampirism gives her specific abilities and weaknesses. She can float, shapeshift to some degree, and has enhanced strength. But she is vulnerable to sunlight, which can burn or destroy her, and she needs to consume the colour red to survive, which she does by draining the red from objects rather than drinking blood. This red-eating quirk is one of the show's creative twists on vampire mythology. The Stakes miniseries shows Marceline hunting and killing the Vampire King and his court before she was turned. She was trying to protect humans, acting as a vampire slayer before becoming a vampire herself. This history reframes her vampirism as a consequence of heroism rather than victimhood. She became a vampire because she was fighting vampires. Marceline's songs throughout the series often function as emotional exposition, revealing how she feels when she might not say it directly. Her music is how she processes her complicated feelings about her long life, her relationships, and her identity. The songs are not just entertainment within the show, they are character development, delivered through melody. Marceline's friendship with Finn and Jake develops slowly over the series. Initially, she is antagonistic, scaring them and testing them. But gradually, she becomes a genuine friend, someone who cares about them, even if she expresses it through teasing and pranks. Her warmth toward them is real, even when it is hidden behind her cool exterior. The loss Marceline has experienced across her 1,000 years is difficult to fully comprehend. Everyone she has ever cared about, except for other immortals, has died. She has had to say goodbye over and over, has had to watch people age while she stays young. This gives her detachment a practical explanation. If you know everyone will leave eventually, maintaining distance becomes a survival mechanism. Princess Bubblegum is one of the most complex characters in Adventure Time, and her complexity becomes apparent slowly as the series progresses. In early episodes, she appears to be a standard princess character, the kind ruler of a candy kingdom who occasionally needs rescuing. But as the show develops, it reveals that Princess Bubblegum is far more than that. She is a scientist, a creator, a ruler with morally questionable methods, and a being whose age and nature are far stranger than they first appear. Princess Bubblegum, often called PB or Bonnibel, is made entirely of gum. She is not a human who happens to rule candy people. She is herself candy, a sentient gum creature who created the Candy Kingdom and all of its inhabitants. This means she is both the ruler and the creator of her subjects, which raises interesting questions about her relationship to them. They are her creations, her responsibility, and in some sense, her children. The Candy Kingdom itself was built by Princess Bubblegum, using candy biomass and her scientific knowledge. She created the candy people, designed the kingdom's infrastructure, and established herself as its eternal ruler. The kingdom is her life's work, a project she has devoted centuries to building and maintaining. Her attachment to it is not just political, but deeply personal. Princess Bubblegum's age is deliberately ambiguous and has changed within the show itself. She has existed for centuries in some form, but her apparent age has varied. At one point, she was de-aged into a child and had to grow back to her adult form. Her gum-based biology allows her to reconstitute herself if damaged, which makes her effectively immortal under most circumstances. The exact number of years she has lived is never stated clearly. Hynden Walch provides the voice of Princess Bubblegum, bringing a combination of sweetness and steel to the character. Walch's performance captures how Princess Bubblegum can be genuinely kind and caring, while also being capable of cold, calculating decisions. The voice shifts subtly, depending on whether Bubblegum is being a friend or being a ruler, and those two modes do not always align. Princess Bubblegum's scientific abilities border on mad science. She has created life, built surveillance systems that monitor her entire kingdom, developed weapons of significant power, and conducted experiments that sometimes go wrong in dangerous ways. Her lab is full of projects that range from helpful to ethically questionable. She justifies most of this as necessary for protecting her kingdom, but the show does not always endorse her reasoning. The surveillance state that Princess Bubblegum maintains over the Candy Kingdom is addressed directly in several episodes. She monitors her citizens constantly, justifying it as protection against threats. The show presents this as morally complicated, rather than clearly right or wrong. She has reasons for her surveillance, but the invasion of privacy is real. This nuance is unusual for a children's show. Princess Bubblegum's relationship with Marceline is central to both characters' emotional arcs. They have a history that spans centuries, a relationship that was once close and then became distant due to a falling out. The show hints at this history throughout its run before making their romantic connection explicit in the finale. Their reconciliation is gradual and earned across many episodes. The Lemongrab characters are Princess Bubblegum's creations, and they represent some of her most troubling work. Lemongrab was an experiment in creating candy life that went wrong. He is unstable, prone to screaming, and eventually becomes a tyrant in his own earldom. Princess Bubblegum feels responsible for him because she made him, but she also cannot fix him. The Lemongrab situation is one of her most obvious failures. Princess Bubblegum's pragmatism sometimes conflicts with her friendships. She has made decisions that hurt people she cares about because she believed those decisions were necessary for the greater good. Her willingness to sacrifice personal relationships for political or scientific goals is part of what makes her complicated. She is not a villain, but she is not purely heroic either. The Candy Kingdom's citizens are not fully sapient in early episodes, with Princess Bubblegum seemingly their creator and controller. Later episodes complicate this by showing candy people with their own desires, fears, and agency. The evolution of how the show treats them reflects the evolution of Princess Bubblegum's character. She begins as their benevolent creator and becomes something more like an overprotective parent who must learn to let go. Princess Bubblegum's design uses pink as her primary colour, with her hair made of actual bubblegum that can be used in various ways. Her appearance has changed throughout the series, with her hair and clothing varying to reflect different storylines and moods. When she is stressed or preparing for conflict, her appearance often becomes more severe. The design choices communicate her internal state. Princess Bubblegum's intelligence is established as one of the highest in the Land of Ooo. She understands magic, science, and their intersection in ways that other characters do not. Her knowledge is sometimes the key to solving problems that Finn and Jake cannot handle through adventure alone. She is often the person characters turn to when they need something figured out. Princess Bubblegum's morality is one of the show's most explored themes. She genuinely cares about her people and wants to protect them, but her methods sometimes cross ethical lines. She has spied on citizens, manipulated situations, and made decisions without consulting those affected. The show does not condemn her outright, but asks viewers to consider whether good intentions justify questionable actions. The relationship between Princess Bubblegum and Finn is complicated by Finn's early romantic feelings for her. She is older than him, more experienced, and not interested in him romantically. The show handles this with unusual maturity, showing Finn's crush as genuine, but also showing that Bubblegum's rejection is not cruel, just honest. Their relationship eventually settles into a genuine friendship based on mutual respect. Princess Bubblegum's creation of the Candy Kingdom raises questions about what it means to create life. She made her citizens, which gives her a kind of responsibility for them that goes beyond normal rulership. But it also means she sometimes treats them as things she owns rather than people with autonomy. Her growth as a character involves learning to see them as individuals rather than creations. The Gumball Guardians, giant gumball machines that protect the Candy Kingdom, are another example of Princess Bubblegum's creative science. She built massive defense systems to protect her people, showing her willingness to go to extreme lengths for their safety. These guardians are impressive, but also slightly ominous. Massive constructs that reflect her protective but controlling nature. Princess Bubblegum's lab is a recurring location in the series, full of experiments ranging from helpful to dangerous. The lab represents her scientific side, the part of her that wants to understand and manipulate the world. It is also where some of her worst decisions have originated. making it a symbol of both her brilliance and her potential for harm. Princess Bubblegum has shown the ability to reconstitute herself from small amounts of gum, which makes her extremely difficult to kill permanently. This biological quirk means she has survived situations that would have ended other characters. Her effective immortality gives her a perspective similar to Marceline's, though she processes it differently. The Candy Kingdom's army, such as it is, consists mainly of banana guards who are notoriously incompetent. Princess Bubblegum relies on them for basic security, but clearly does not expect them to handle real threats. Her willingness to accept this incompetent army suggests she has other means of protecting her kingdom that she does not advertise. The Land of Ooo is the setting for Adventure Time, and its true nature is one of the show's most significant world-building elements. Ooo is not a fantasy world separate from Earth. It is Earth, roughly 1,000 years after a nuclear apocalypse called the Mushroom War. The land that Finn and Jake explore is the transformed remains of human civilization, mutated by radiation and magic into something strange and new. The Mushroom War is the name given to the conflict that ended human civilization. The war involved nuclear weapons, and the mushroom clouds from these explosions gave the war its name. The show never depicts the war directly, but its aftermath is visible throughout the series. Ruined cities, abandoned technology, and the occasional skeleton remind viewers that this colourful world was built on catastrophe. The craters visible in some wide shots of Ooo are nuclear impact sites. The landscape is scarred by the war in ways that become apparent when you look for them. Mountains might be rubble, lakes might be craters. The geography of Ooo is the geography of post-apocalyptic Earth, transformed over 1,000 years, but still bearing the marks of what happened. The mutations that created the Candy People, the talking animals, the various strange creatures of Ooo are the result of radiation and the release of magical energy during the war. The show implies that a mutagenic bomb, possibly the same one that created the Lich, released transformative energy that changed life on Earth forever. The colourful inhabitants of Ooo are the descendants of this transformation. The Mushroom War backstory is revealed gradually through environmental details, artifacts, and eventually explicit storylines. Early episodes contain hints that careful viewers might notice. A ruined car here, a piece of old technology there. Later seasons address the war more directly, showing flashbacks and explaining what happened. The gradual reveal rewards viewers who pay attention. Human artifacts from before the war appear throughout the series. Old appliances, vehicles, buildings, and technology are scattered across Ooo, sometimes repurposed and sometimes simply ruined. These artifacts create a sense of history, a reminder that this world has a past that its current inhabitants may not fully understand. The few remaining humans, including Finn, are significant because humanity nearly went extinct. The Islands miniseries reveals that some humans survived by fleeing to distant islands, where they built a new society separate from Ooo. But Finn was somehow separated from this community and ended up in Ooo as a baby, making him unusual among his own species. The geography of Ooo includes numerous distinct regions and kingdoms. The Candy Kingdom, the Ice Kingdom, the Fire Kingdom, Lumpy Space, the Nightosphere, and many others each have their own characteristics and rulers. This diversity of environments allows the show to tell many different kinds of stories while maintaining a consistent world. The grasslands, where Finn and Jake's treehouse is located, serve as the central hub of the show. The treehouse itself is built in a massive tree and serves as the character's home base. It is a cosy, lived-in space that reflects Finn and Jake's personalities, full of treasure from their adventures and comfortable spaces for relaxing. The Ice Kingdom is a frozen region ruled by the Ice King, created and maintained by his crown's power. It exists as an anomaly in Oo's otherwise temperate climate, a personal domain that reflects its ruler's nature. The kingdom is impressive but lonely, full of ice structures but lacking genuine inhabitants beyond the penguins. The Fire Kingdom is a realm of flames and lava, home to fire elementals, including Flame Princess. The kingdom's extreme environment makes it dangerous for non-fire beings to visit, which creates natural isolation. The Fire Kingdom's politics and history become important in storylines involving Flame Princess. The Nightosphere is a chaotic dimension ruled by Hunson Abadir, Marceline's father. It functions as Adventure Time's version of a demonic realm, full of strange creatures and operating by its own rules. Characters can travel to the Nightosphere but rarely want to stay, as its chaotic nature is exhausting for most visitors. The cosmology of Adventure Time extends beyond Ooo to include multiple dimensions, alternate timelines, and cosmic entities. The show's universe is vast and strange, with Ooo being just one small part of a much larger reality. This expansiveness allows for stories that range from intimate personal drama to universe-threatening cosmic events. The show's approach to world-building is additive rather than explanatory. Details accumulate over episodes and seasons, creating a sense of depth without requiring exposition dumps. Viewers learn about Ooo, the way its inhabitants know it, through experience and discovery rather than through lectures. The history of Ooo extends beyond the Mushroom War to include ancient civilizations, elemental forces, and cosmic events. The show gradually reveals that the world has gone through multiple cycles of creation and destruction, with the current era being just the latest in a long series. This deep history gives the world weight and suggests that current events are part of larger patterns. The various kingdoms of Ooo each have their own governments, cultures, and problems. The show uses this diversity to tell different kinds of stories depending on the setting. Episodes in the Fire Kingdom deal with different themes than episodes in Lumpy Space. The world is designed to support variety. The ocean surrounding Ooo is implied to be dangerous and largely unexplored. The Islands mini-series reveals that crossing the ocean is difficult and that most inhabitants of Ooo do not attempt it. This explains why the island humans remained unknown for so long and why Ooo feels isolated despite being on Earth. The magic that exists in Ooo is a combination of naturally occurring phenomena and skills that can be learned. Some characters are born with magical abilities, while others study and practice to acquire them. The show treats magic as part of the natural order of this transformed world rather than something supernatural. The transformation of Earth into Ooo happened over centuries, allowing evolution and adaptation to create the strange creatures that now inhabit it. The Candy People, talking animals, and various monsters are all descendants of things that existed before, changed by time and radiation and magic into new forms. This evolutionary framing gives the world biological logic, even when the results are absurd. The ruins of human civilization appear throughout Ooo, sometimes recognized and sometimes not. Characters occasionally find old technology or artifacts without understanding what they were used for. These moments create a sense that the world has lost knowledge, that the inhabitants of Ooo are living among the remains of something they cannot fully comprehend. The tree fort, where Finn and Jake live, is itself built into an ancient tree that has grown enormous over the centuries. The house they have made inside it is cobbled together from various materials, some modern to Ooo, and some clearly from before the war. Their home is a microcosm of Ooo itself, a blend of old and new. The various princesses who rule different kingdoms each have their own relationships with Princess Bubblegum, ranging from friendly to hostile to indifferent. The political landscape of Ooo is complex, with alliances and rivalries that shift over time. The show does not spend much time on formal politics, but acknowledges that it exists. The seasons in Ooo seem to function normally, despite the land's strange nature. Snow falls in winter, leaves change in autumn, and the cycle of seasons continues as it did before the war. This normalcy amid strangeness is part of what makes Ooo feel like a real place, rather than a purely fantastical setting. BMO, usually written as BMO, is a sentient video game console who lives with Finn and Jake in their treehouse. BMO is one of the show's most beloved characters, a small robot with a screen face who serves as friend, roommate, and entertainment system. BMO's gentle personality and childlike wonder make them a consistent source of warmth in the show. BMO's gender is intentionally ambiguous. Different characters refer to BMO with different pronouns throughout the series, and BMO does not seem to have or care about a fixed gender identity. The show treats this ambiguity as simply part of who BMO is, without making it a source of conflict or confusion. BMO is just BMO. The voice of BMO is provided by Nikki Yang, who also voices Lady Rainicorn. Yang gives BMO a soft, slightly accented voice that sounds both robotic and childlike. The voice performance is crucial to BMO's appeal, making them sound innocent and genuine without being annoying. BMO was created by an inventor named Mo, who built robots designed to be companions. Mo created BMO to be a friend for his son, but when Mo never had a son, BMO eventually left and found their way to Finn and Jake. This origin gives BMO's existence a slightly melancholy undertone. They were built to be someone's friend and had to find their own purpose. Mo himself appears in the series, revealed to be an ancient human who has survived since before the Mushroom War by gradually replacing his organic parts with mechanical ones. The connection between Mo and BMO adds depth to BMO's character, showing that they have a creator who loved them even if that creator could not be present in their life. BMO's imagination is rich and active, and the show dedicates several episodes to exploring BMO's inner life. In these episodes, BMO plays elaborate pretend games, having adventures in their imagination, while appearing to sit quietly in the real world. These sequences are among the most creative in the series, showing BMO's capacity for fantasy and play. BMO's functionality as a video game console is used throughout the series, with Finn and Jake playing games on BMO's screen. But BMO is clearly more than their function. They have feelings, desires, fears, and a personality that exists independent of their utility. The show treats BMO as a full character, not just a device. BMO's relationships with Finn and Jake are warm and familial. They live together, share meals, and support each other through difficulties. BMO is not a pet or a tool, but a member of the household, with their own room and their own concerns. The dynamic is more like roommates or siblings than owner and device. BMO has had their own adventures separate from Finn and Jake, including an entire Distant Lands special focused on their solo journey. In BMO, the special that aired on HBO Max, BMO travels through space and has adventures that reveal more about their character and capabilities. The special demonstrated that BMO could carry a story without the main characters. BMO's design is simple and iconic, a small rectangular robot with a screen for a face and simple limbs. The screen displays BMO's expressions, showing emotions through simple pixel graphics. This design is both retro, evoking old handheld game devices, and expressive, allowing BMO to communicate feelings clearly. BMO's capacity for emotion raises questions about consciousness and personhood that the show engages with lightly but genuinely. BMO clearly feels things. They get sad, happy, scared, and excited. Whether a robot can truly feel these things or is simply simulating them is a philosophical question the show does not definitively answer, treating BMO's emotions as real and valid regardless. BMO's songs and games often provide moments of levity in the show. They sing little songs to themselves, play pretend with imaginary friends, and generally bring a sense of innocent joy to scenes. This lightness balances darker moments in the series, reminding viewers that Adventure Time can be purely fun, even when it deals with heavy themes. BMO has demonstrated surprising competence in dangerous situations, despite their small size and apparent vulnerability. They have fought enemies, solved problems, and survived challenges that seemed beyond their capabilities. BMO is tougher than they look, which fits the show's general approach to its characters being more than they appear. BMO's memories and experiences are stored digitally, which creates interesting questions about identity and continuity. If BMO's data were copied, would the copy be BMO? The show touches on these questions without resolving them definitively, treating BMO's identity as something that goes beyond mere data. BMO has a tendency to lie and create elaborate stories, which is played for comedy, but also reveals something about their character. They want life to be more exciting than it sometimes is, so they embellish and imagine and pretend. This trait makes BMO an unreliable narrator of their own adventures, which adds charm rather than frustration. BMO's friendship with football, their reflection, is one of the stranger relationships in the show. Football is initially just BMO's reflection in a mirror, but over time becomes a separate entity with their own desires and personality. The football episodes explore identity and the relationship between self and other in surreal but meaningful ways. BMO's role in the treehouse is part caretaker, part companion, part entertainment. They keep the house running, provide games and fun for Finn and Jake, and generally maintain the domestic space. This role gives BMO purpose and place, making them integral to the household rather than just a guest. BMO's emotional responses to situations are often the most pure in the show. They react with genuine joy to good things and genuine sadness to bad things, without the complications that other characters bring to their emotions. This simplicity makes BMO a kind of emotional anchor, reminding viewers of how things feel at their most basic level. The Distant Lands special focused on BMO was the first of the HBO Max specials and set the tone for how the show would continue beyond its original run. The special showed that Adventure Time could work in longer formats, and that individual characters could carry substantial stories on their own. BMO's age is unclear, but they have existed since before the Mushroom War, making them one of the older characters in the show, despite their childlike personality. Mo created them long ago, and BMO has wandered and adventured for centuries before finding Finn and Jake. This long history is rarely addressed, but adds depth to their character. BMO's relationship with technology in general is interesting because they are technology. They can interface with other machines, understand programming concepts, and exist in digital spaces in ways organic characters cannot. This gives them unique capabilities in certain situations, particularly when dealing with other artificial intelligences or digital threats. BMO's voice actress, Nikki Yang, also voices Lady Rainicorn, meaning she provides two very different voices for the show. The contrast between BMO's simple English and Lady Rainicorn's Korean creates an interesting dynamic when both characters appear in the same scene, both voiced by the same person. BMO's screen face can display various images and interfaces, not just their normal expression. They can show video playback, game screens, and other visual information. This functionality makes them useful as a literal screen, in addition to being a character, a practical tool that also happens to be a friend. BMO's internal world, revealed in episodes that take place inside their programming, shows a rich digital landscape where BMO has power and agency. These internal episodes are visually distinct and thematically interesting, exploring what it means to exist as a digital being. The Lich is the primary antagonist of Adventure Time, and unlike the show's other villains, he has no sympathetic qualities. He is not misunderstood, not redeemable, not secretly sad. The Lich is pure extinction, a being whose only goal is the end of all life. His presence in the show creates genuine stakes because he represents a threat that cannot be reasoned with or befriended. The Lich was created by, or emerged from, the mutagenic bomb that caused the Mushroom War. He is a direct product of the apocalypse, a creature born from humanity's capacity for self-destruction. His origin ties him to the show's post-apocalyptic setting, making him a living reminder of the catastrophe that created Ooo. The voice of the Lich is provided by Ron Perlman, whose deep, resonant delivery gives the character genuine menace. Perlman speaks the Lich's lines with cold certainty, making his threats feel real rather than cartoonish. The voice performance is crucial to making the Lich frightening in a show that is often silly. The Lich's most famous moment is his speech about the inevitable end of all things, delivered with poetic darkness that is unusual for children's television. The speech articulates a nihilistic philosophy that the show does not endorse, but also does not dismiss as simply wrong. The Lich believes what he believes, and his conviction is part of what makes him threatening. The Lich's physical appearance is skeletal and decayed, with green flames often surrounding him. He looks like death itself, a corpse with glowing eyes that radiate malevolence. His design is intentionally disturbing, contrasting sharply with the show's usually bright and colourful aesthetic. When the Lich appears, the visual tone shifts. The Lich cannot be permanently destroyed because he is more concept than creature. He has been defeated multiple times, but he always returns in some form. He has possessed bodies, hidden in hosts, and survived apparent annihilation. His persistence makes him a constant threat, something that might resurface at any time. Sweet Pea is the reincarnation of the Lich, a giant baby who was created when the Lich fell into the Guardian's citadel. Sweet Pea has no memory of being the Lich, and is genuinely innocent and kind. He is raised by Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig, who love him as their son. But the Lich is still inside him, dormant but potentially awake. The existence of Sweet Pea creates one of the show's most interesting moral dilemmas. He is a good person who contains the essence of ultimate evil. The characters who know his origin must decide whether to treat him as a threat or as the innocent child he appears to be. The show generally suggests that nurture can overcome nature, but it never guarantees it. The Lich's well of power, a pool of green liquid that he draws strength from, is located beneath the Candy Kingdom. This location means that the ultimate evil literally exists beneath Princess Bubblegum's domain, a threat that she must be aware of and guard against. The well represents a permanent danger that cannot be eliminated. The Lich's relationship to death is complicated by the existence of death as a separate character in the show. Death is a person with a personality, someone who can be reasoned with and even befriended. The Lich is not death in that sense. He is annihilation, the end of everything including the afterlife. He wants to stop the cycle entirely. The Lich's presence in the show elevates the stakes of Adventure Time beyond typical children's cartoon conflicts. Most villains in kids' shows want to take over the world or steal something valuable. The Lich wants to end existence. This makes episodes featuring him feel genuinely dangerous in a way that other episodes do not. The Lich represents an idea that the show takes seriously, that some evil cannot be redeemed. Adventure Time generally believes in second chances and character growth. The Ice King becomes sympathetic. Many antagonists become friends. But the Lich remains irredeemable because redemption requires wanting something other than destruction, and the Lich wants only the end. The defeat of the Lich, when it happens, is never through violence alone. The Lich is too powerful to simply fight. He is defeated through love, through connection, through the things he cannot understand or counter. His weakness is the very thing he wants to destroy, the bonds between living beings. The Lich's influence extends beyond his physical presence. He can possess bodies, corrupt minds, and spread his will through others. Billy, the great hero who Finn idolized, was killed and possessed by the Lich, using Billy's trusted appearance to manipulate Finn and Jake. This possession was one of the show's most disturbing revelations, showing that even heroes can be compromised. The well of power that sustains the Lich is connected to the bomb that ended the world. The same destructive force that created Ooo also created its greatest threat. This connection reinforces the show's theme that the Land of Ooo is built on catastrophe, that the colourful world exists because of terrible destruction. The Lich's patience is part of what makes him frightening. He does not need to rush. He has existed for 1,000 years and can wait longer. His plans unfold over time, and his defeats are merely delays. This patience gives him a cosmic quality, something beyond the urgency of mortal concerns. The episodes featuring the Lich are often the most intense in the series. The animation becomes darker, the music more ominous, and the stakes feel higher. The show treats his appearances as events, building toward them and dealing with their aftermath. He is not a villain who appears every week. He is a threat that emerges when the story requires genuine danger. The Lich's existence raises philosophical questions that the show engages with seriously. If all life ends eventually, is the Lich simply trying to accelerate the inevitable? Is fighting him meaningful if entropy will win in the end? The show answers these questions with action rather than argument, having characters choose to fight and love and live despite the certainty of eventual ending. The transformation of the Lich into Sweet Pea does not eliminate the threat he represents. It contains it, transforms it, gives it a chance to become something else. But the Lich is still there, somewhere inside the innocent giant child, waiting. This ambiguity is typical of how Adventure Time handles its villains, finding complexity even in its most purely evil character. The Lich's green fire is a distinctive visual element that appears whenever he uses his power or influence. This green flame contrasts with the show's usual colour palette and immediately signals danger. The colour has become associated with nuclear radiation and apocalyptic imagery in the show's visual language. The hand of the Lich, which Finn accidentally wears at one point, demonstrates how the Lich's corruption can spread even through fragments of his body. The hand influences Finn's behaviour, showing that the Lich's evil is not contained in his consciousness alone, but exists throughout his physical form. Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig raising Sweet Pea is one of the show's more unexpected parenting situations. The small elephant and her pig husband become the parents of a giant child containing ultimate evil, and they approach it with the same sweetness they bring to everything. Their love for Sweet Pea is genuine and may be what keeps the Lich dormant within him. The Lich's cosmic scope becomes clearer in later seasons when it is revealed that he exists across multiple dimensions and timelines. In some realities, the Lich has succeeded in his goal. In others, he has been stopped in different ways. This multidimensional presence makes him feel like a fundamental force rather than just a villain. The Lich's connection to the extinction of the dinosaurs is implied in some episodes, suggesting he has existed in some form for millions of years. Whether this is the same Lich or a recurring pattern of destruction is unclear, but it suggests that the impulse toward annihilation that the Lich represents may be as old as life itself. Lumpy Space Princess, often called LSP, is one of the most distinctive characters in Adventure Time, and her voice is provided by Pendleton Ward himself, the creator of the show. Ward performs LSP with a dramatic Valley Girl accent that became one of the most recognizable character voices in animation. The voice is exaggerated and self-absorbed, perfectly matching LSP's personality as someone who believes everything is about her and every situation is a personal drama. Lumpy Space Princess is a purple, lumpy, cloud-like being who floats rather than walks. She comes from Lumpy Space, a dimension accessible through a portal in the woods. Lumpy Space is populated by other lumpy beings who share LSP's general appearance and dramatic temperament. The entire dimension seems to operate on teen drama logic, with relationships and social status being the primary concerns. LSP's relationship with her parents is strained throughout the series. She considers them embarrassing and often runs away from home to live in the woods or crash with Finn and Jake. Her rebellion against her parents is played for comedy, but it also shows a character who does not quite fit in anywhere, not fully comfortable in Lumpy Space, but not fully accepted elsewhere either. The episode where LSP bites Finn and temporarily turns him lumpy is one of the earliest demonstrations of how Lumpy Space works. The lumpiness spreads like an infection, and the cure requires a trip to Lumpy Space itself. This episode established that Lumpy Space has its own rules, and that contact with its inhabitants can have physical effects on others. LSP's self-centeredness is her defining trait, but the show occasionally reveals that she is aware of her flaws and struggles with them. She wants to be a good friend, but often fails because she cannot stop thinking about herself. These moments of self-awareness prevent her from being purely annoying and make her more sympathetic, a character who knows she has problems but cannot quite fix them. Lemongrab is one of Princess Bubblegum's most troubling creations, a candy person made in an attempt to create an heir for the Candy Kingdom. The experiment went wrong, producing a being who is unstable, prone to screaming, and incapable of understanding social norms. Lemongrab's existence raises questions about what Princess Bubblegum owes to her creations, especially when those creations are suffering. The voice of Lemongrab is provided by Justin Roiland, who would later co-create Rick and Morty. Roiland's performance is deliberately grating, with Lemongrab's screams of "unacceptable" becoming one of the show's most quoted lines. The voice is unpleasant by design, reflecting a character who is himself unpleasant and unable to modulate his responses to situations. Lemongrab eventually gets a companion, another lemongrab created by Princess Bubblegum in an attempt to give him someone who understands him. The two lemongrabs initially get along, but their relationship deteriorates in disturbing ways, with one eventually cannibalizing the other. This dark turn shows the show's willingness to take its strange premises to uncomfortable conclusions. The earldom of Lemongrab, where Lemongrab rules, becomes a totalitarian nightmare under his leadership. He imprisons his subjects for minor infractions and creates an atmosphere of fear and control. The show uses Lemongrab's kingdom to explore themes of authoritarianism and the dangers of giving power to someone who cannot handle it. Tree Trunks is a small yellow elephant who speaks with a thick southern accent and is obsessed with baking apple pies. She appears early in the series and becomes a recurring character, representing a kind of gentle domesticity that contrasts with the show's adventure elements. Her pies are famous throughout Ooo, and her home is a place of comfort and safety. Tree Trunks eventually marries Mr. Pig, a pig who shares her gentle nature. Their relationship is sweet and uncomplicated, providing one of the show's few examples of a stable romantic partnership. They later become the adoptive parents of Sweet Pea, the reincarnated Lich, adding an unexpected dimension to their domestic life. The episode where Tree Trunks eats the crystal gem apple is one of the strangest in the early series. She transforms and apparently dies, leaving Finn devastated before reappearing as the queen of the crystal dimension. The episode demonstrated early on that Adventure Time was willing to do unexpected things with its characters, and that even minor characters could have major storylines. Peppermint Butler is Princess Bubblegum's loyal servant, a small candy person who handles the domestic affairs of the Candy Kingdom. But beneath his helpful exterior, Peppermint Butler has extensive knowledge of dark magic, necromancy, and the occult. He has made deals with death, can summon demons, and seems to have connections throughout the darker corners of the Adventure Time universe. The contrast between Peppermint Butler's role as a butler and his secret knowledge of evil magic is played for both comedy and genuine unease. He is genuinely helpful and loyal to Princess Bubblegum, but he is also genuinely dangerous. The show never fully explains how he acquired his dark knowledge, or what his ultimate goals might be. Peppermint Butler received his own Distant Lands special, Wizard City, which focused on his backstory and his relationship with magic. The special showed him as a young candy person attending wizard school, adding depth to a character who had been mostly mysterious throughout the main series. Choose Goose is a character who speaks only in rhymes and runs a travelling shop of magical items. His commitment to rhyming regardless of circumstances provides reliable comedy, and his shop offers convenient access to magical objects when the plot requires them. He represents the show's love of characters with unusual restrictions or quirks. The Duke of Nuts has an uncontrollable urge to eat Princess Bubblegum's pudding, a running joke that exemplifies the show's approach to comedy. The premise is absurd, but the characters treat it with complete sincerity, creating humour through the gap between the silliness of the situation and the seriousness of the reactions. Gunter, the Ice King's penguin, appears throughout the series as comic relief and as a companion for the lonely Ice King. But Gunter is eventually revealed to be Orgalorg, an ancient cosmic entity that was banished to Earth and had its memories wiped. The seemingly innocent penguin contains something far more dangerous, one of the show's most surprising reveals. The party god is a floating wolf head who exists only to party. He appears occasionally when the show needs a celebration or when characters need to let loose. His existence is never explained, and he seems to embody the concept of partying itself, rather than being a character with depth or development. Shelby is a worm who lives in Jake's viola and occasionally offers wisdom or commentary. He has his own brother, Kent, and his own concerns that are occasionally explored. Shelby represents the show's commitment to populating every corner of its world with potential characters, even the inside of a musical instrument. Magic Man is a Martian wizard whose cruelty is eventually explained by grief over the loss of his wife Margles. Early in the series, he appears as a simple antagonist who plays mean pranks on Finn and Jake. Later revelations about his past add sympathy to his character without excusing his behaviour. Magic Man's brother is Grob Gob Glob Grod, a four-faced deity who watches over Mars. The Martian mythology that the show develops adds another layer to its already complex cosmology, suggesting that different planets have their own magical traditions and divine beings. Huntress Wizard is a skilled hunter and magic user who becomes a romantic interest for Finn in later seasons. Their relationship is built on mutual respect and shared interests rather than dramatic tension. She represents a more mature approach to romance for Finn, a relationship between equals rather than between a young boy and an older princess. Flame Princess, whose real name is Phoebe, starts as a potential threat and becomes one of Finn's most significant relationships. She is the daughter of the Flame King, ruler of the Fire Kingdom, and was imprisoned by her father because her power was considered too dangerous. Her release and subsequent relationship with Finn explores themes of freedom, control, and incompatibility. The physical incompatibility between Finn and Flame Princess, the fact that touching her burns him, creates natural obstacles to their relationship. The show uses this incompatibility metaphorically, suggesting that some relationships face barriers that cannot be overcome through will alone. Their eventual breakup is handled with maturity, showing both characters growing from the experience. Flame Princess eventually becomes the ruler of the Fire Kingdom, deposing her father and taking his place. Her arc from imprisoned princess to capable ruler is one of the show's most complete character journeys, showing genuine growth and change over multiple seasons. Adventure Time was created by Pendleton Ward, who developed the show from a short film he made for Nickelodeon's Random Cartoons anthology in 2007. That original short, which is still available online, contains the essential elements of what the show would become, though in rougher form. The short went viral, attracting millions of views and catching the attention of Cartoon Network executives who decided to develop it into a full series. Pendleton Ward's creative vision shaped the early seasons of the show, establishing its tone, its humour, and its approach to storytelling. Ward is known for his improvisational style and his willingness to follow strange ideas wherever they lead. This approach gave the show its distinctive feeling of spontaneous creativity, as if anything could happen at any moment. Ward stepped back from day-to-day show running after the 5th season, though he remained involved with the show in various capacities. Adam Muto took over as showrunner and guided the series through its later seasons and finale. The transition was relatively smooth, with the show maintaining its essential character while also evolving in new directions. The show's production used a storyboard-driven process, which was unusual for American animation at the time. Instead of writing traditional scripts that were then illustrated, Adventure Time's episodes were written directly to storyboard. This gave the storyboard artists significant creative control and allowed for visual improvisation that traditional scripts would not permit. The storyboard-driven process contributed to the show's visual inventiveness and its willingness to try unusual things. Because artists were writing as they drew, they could discover ideas visually and incorporate them immediately. This process also meant that different episodes had slightly different feels depending on which artists worked on them. Many of the show's writers and storyboard artists went on to create their own successful animated series. Patrick McHale created Over the Garden Wall. Rebecca Sugar created Steven Universe. Other alumni have worked on shows ranging from Gravity Falls to The Owl House. Adventure Time served as a training ground for a generation of animation talent. The show's writing room was reportedly collaborative and supportive, with writers building on each other's ideas and pushing each other to find emotional depth in seemingly absurd premises. This collaborative spirit is visible in the show's consistent tone, despite many different writers contributing over its run. The pilot episode that started everything is noticeably different from the finished series. The animation is rougher, the voices are slightly different, and the world is less developed. But the core appeal is already present. The humour, the friendship between the main characters, and the sense that this world has more to it than initially appears. Cartoon Network initially had concerns about the show's strange humour and whether it would appeal to audiences. The viral success of the pilot helped convince them to take a chance. The show's eventual success validated the decision and opened doors for other unconventional animated series. The show ran for 10 seasons, though the exact count depends on how seasons are numbered. Some sources count differently based on how episodes were grouped for broadcast. Regardless of the exact count, the show ran from 2010 to 2018, making it one of Cartoon Network's longest-running original series. The final episode, titled Come Along With Me, ran over 40 minutes and wrapped up numerous storylines, while leaving others deliberately open. The finale was generally well received by fans and critics as a satisfying conclusion that honoured the show's history while acknowledging that the world of Ooo would continue beyond what was shown. The show's title comes from the phrase Finn and Jake use to begin their adventures. What time is it? Adventure time. This call to action became the show's identity, capturing its spirit of enthusiasm, friendship, and the joy of having experiences together. The episode title cards for Adventure Time change with every episode, each one created by a different artist or the episode's storyboard artist. These title cards became collector's items and are considered part of the show's artistic legacy. They often contain visual jokes, foreshadowing, or references that become clear only after watching the episode. The show's animation was produced in partnership with Korean studios, particularly Rough Draft Korea and later other studios. This international production pipeline is common for American animated shows, but Adventure Time's Korean animation is considered particularly high quality, contributing to the show's distinctive visual style. The show's colour palette evolved over its run, with later seasons often using more muted atmospheric colours for dramatic moments, while maintaining bright, saturated colours for comedic or action sequences. The colour scripting became increasingly sophisticated as the show matured. The background art, in Adventure Time, is notable for its beauty and detail. Background paintings created the world of Ooo with distinctive environments that feel both fantastical and grounded. The background artists established visual continuity that made Ooo feel like a real place you could visit. The show's Emmy wins and nominations recognized both its artistic achievements and its technical quality. The recognition helped legitimize Adventure Time within the broader television landscape, showing that animated series could achieve critical acclaim alongside live-action programming. Cartoon Network's support for the show allowed it to take creative risks that might not have been possible elsewhere. The network gave the creative team significant freedom, trusting them to deliver quality content even when individual episodes were unusual or experimental. The show's influence extended beyond animation into merchandise, comic books, video games, and other media. Adventure Time became a brand that extended the show's reach beyond television, introducing new audiences to the characters and world of Ooo. The comic book series published by Boom by Boom Studios continued Adventure Time stories during and after the show's television run. Various comics explored different characters, timelines, and scenarios, extending the show's universe beyond what the TV series could cover. The show's approach to continuity evolved over its run. Early seasons were more episodic, with self-contained adventures. Later seasons developed longer arcs, deeper mythology, and more serialized storytelling. The show never abandoned its capacity for standalone silliness, but layered it with increasing complexity. The fandom that developed around Adventure Time created extensive artwork, fiction, and analysis throughout its run. The depth of the show's world-building invited deep engagement, and fans responded with theories, timelines, and creative works that expanded on what the show provided. The show's relationship with its audience evolved over time. Early seasons appealed primarily to children and animation fans. Later, seasons attracted older viewers who appreciated the show's increasing depth. The audience grew up with the show, and the show matured with its audience. The critical reception of Adventure Time improved over its run. Early reviews were positive, but treated it as a quirky children's show. Later reviews recognized it as one of the most important animated series of its era, a show that redefined what animation could accomplish. The show's conclusion was handled thoughtfully, with the creative team given time to plan and execute a finale that honored the show's history. Unlike some series that end abruptly, Adventure Time got to say goodbye properly, wrapping up character arcs while leaving room for the world to continue. The mini-series format used for Stakes and Islands allowed for more concentrated storytelling than regular episodes permitted. These mini-series could explore character backstories in depth, providing context that enriched the main series without interrupting its episodic flow. The music of Adventure Time is one of its most distinctive and beloved elements. The show features original songs performed by characters, background music that ranges from ambient to emotional, and a theme song that became instantly recognizable. Music is not just accompaniment in Adventure Time, but an essential part of how the show tells its stories and develops its characters. Rebecca Sugar, who worked as a writer and storyboard artist on the show before leaving to create Steven Universe, wrote many of Adventure Time's most memorable songs. Her compositions often deal with complex emotions, using simple melodies to convey feelings that dialogue alone could not express. Songs like I'm Just Your Problem and Remember You became fan favourites. The song Remember You, performed by Ice King and Marceline, is frequently cited as one of the most emotionally affecting pieces of music in animated television. The song expresses Marceline's grief for Simon and the Ice King's confusion about feelings he cannot understand. It transforms what could have been simple exposition into something genuinely moving. The theme song, written by Pendleton Ward, plays at the beginning of each episode and lasts only about 5 seconds in its shortened form. The full version exists and is slightly longer, but the show uses the abbreviated version. The melody is simple and catchy, immediately establishing the show's adventurous tone. The background music, composed primarily by Tim Kiefer in early seasons and by various composers later, creates atmosphere without demanding attention. The music shifts to match the mood of scenes, becoming playful during comedy, tense during action, and emotional during character moments. This scoring is sophisticated, despite the show's cartoon format. Marceline's songs, throughout the series, function as character development, revealing her feelings when she might not express them directly. Her bass guitar performances are animated with attention to detail, and her voice actress, Olivia Olsen's singing, brings genuine musical talent to the character. Marceline's music became so popular that albums of her songs were released. The Bacon Pancakes song, a short tune Jake sings while cooking breakfast, became one of the most widely shared pieces of music from the show. The song is simple, just a few repeated lines about making bacon pancakes, but its catchiness led to countless remixes and references online. It demonstrated how the show could create cultural moments from small scenes. BMO's songs are often simple and childlike, reflecting their personality. BMO sings to themselves while doing tasks, creating little melodies that add warmth to scenes. These songs are not meant to be profound, but to show BMO's inner life, their capacity for joy and creativity, even in ordinary moments. The show's approach to music influenced other animated series that followed. Steven Universe, created by Adventure Time alumnus Rebecca Sugar, made music even more central to its storytelling. The success of Adventure Time's musical moments showed that audiences would accept and embrace songs in animated shows. The voice cast of Adventure Time remained remarkably stable throughout the series' run. Jeremy Shada as Finn, John DiMaggio as Jake, Tom Kenny as Ice King, Hynden Walsh as Princess Bubblegum, and the rest of the main cast provided consistency that helped maintain the show's identity across seasons. John DiMaggio brought his experience from Futurama and other voice work to Jake, creating a character who sounds relaxed and wise. His improvisational skills contributed to Jake's dialogue, and his chemistry with Jeremy Shada made the friendship between Finn and Jake feel genuine. Tom Kenny's range as the Ice King allowed the character to be both comedic and tragic. Kenny could play the Ice King as a buffoon in one scene and as a heartbreaking figure in the next, sometimes within the same episode. This vocal flexibility was essential to the Ice King's evolution as a character. Olivia Olsen's casting as Marceline brought a real singer to the role, allowing Marceline's musical performances to be genuinely good rather than merely adequate. Olsen's voice acting also captured Marceline's cool exterior and hidden vulnerability, making her one of the show's most compelling characters. The guest voice actors throughout the series included notable names like Ron Perlman as the Lich, Weird Al Yankovic as Banana Man, and many others. These guest appearances added variety and often brought specific qualities to their characters that regular cast members might not have provided. The recording process for Adventure Time allowed for improvisation, with voice actors sometimes riffing on their lines and the best takes being incorporated into episodes. This flexibility contributed to the natural feeling of dialogue and the spontaneous humour that characterises the show. The chemistry between voice actors, particularly between Jeremy Shada and John DiMaggio as Finn and Jake, made their friendship feel authentic. The actors genuinely enjoyed working together, and that enjoyment came through in their performances. The show's sound design created a distinctive audio environment beyond the music and voice acting. Sound effects, ambient noise, and audio cues all contributed to making Ooo feel like a real place with its own acoustic character. The musical episodes of Adventure Time, where songs drive significant portions of the narrative, became some of the most beloved in the series. Episodes like What Was Missing used music to reveal character dynamics and advance relationships in ways that pure dialogue could not. Marceline's voice actress, Olivia Olson, released albums of Marceline's songs, allowing fans to enjoy the music outside of the show. These releases treated the music as legitimate artistic output rather than merely television content. The influence of Adventure Time's approach to music can be seen in subsequent animated shows that made songs central to their storytelling. The success of musical moments in Adventure Time helped establish that audiences would accept and appreciate songs in animated series. The variety of musical styles in the show, from rock to folk to electronic to orchestral, demonstrated range and ambition. Different characters had different musical styles that reflected their personalities. Marceline's rock songs felt different from BMO's simple tunes, which felt different from Princess Bubblegum's occasional musical moments. The emotional climaxes of many episodes were delivered through music rather than dialogue. The show trusted its composers and songwriters to carry dramatic weight, and they consistently delivered. Music became a storytelling tool as important as animation or writing. The show's soundtrack albums collected music from the series, allowing fans to enjoy the compositions outside of their episode contexts. These albums were not just merchandise, but genuine musical releases that stood on their own merit. The legacy of Adventure Time's music continues through covers, remixes, and performances by fans. Songs from the show are played at conventions, covered by musicians, and referenced in other media. The music became part of the show's cultural impact. The emotional resonance of songs like Everything Stays and Time Adventure demonstrates how effectively music can convey complex feelings. These songs deal with loss, change, and the passage of time, themes that the show explores throughout its run. The music makes these themes accessible and affecting. The choice to have characters sing rather than using non-diegetic songs grounds the music in the world of Ooo. When Marceline sings, she is actually singing within the story. This makes the music feel more organic and the emotions more genuine. The range of instruments heard in the show's music reflects the variety of its world. From Marceline's bass guitar to Ice King's drums to BMO's electronic sounds, different characters bring different musical flavors. This diversity makes the soundscape of Ooo as rich as its visual landscape. The romantic relationships in Adventure Time are handled with unusual honesty and complexity for a children's show. Characters fall in love, have their hearts broken, grow apart, and learn from their experiences. Romance is not treated as a reward or a goal, but as a part of life that can be both wonderful and painful. Finn's crush on Princess Bubblegum is established early in the series and becomes a recurring element of his character. He genuinely loves her and hopes she will reciprocate. But she is older than him, more experienced, and simply not interested in him romantically. The show treats this rejection with respect, showing it as painful for Finn without making Princess Bubblegum cruel for saying no. The way Finn handles rejection evolves over the series. Early on, he struggles and sometimes acts out. Later, he learns to accept that unrequited feelings are part of life, and that the person he loves does not owe him a relationship. This maturation is gradual and realistic, avoiding the trope of the persistent suitor eventually winning. Finn's relationship with Flame Princess is his first real romantic relationship, and it is complicated from the start. Their physical incompatibility, her fire nature burning him on contact, creates natural barriers. But beyond the physical, they also struggle with emotional compatibility. Finn's immaturity leads to mistakes that hurt her, and their breakup is a consequence of his actions. The Flame Princess arc teaches Finn and the audience that love is not enough to make a relationship work. You also need respect, honesty, and the willingness to treat your partner as a person with their own needs rather than as an object of your affection. These are mature lessons delivered through a fantasy story about a boy and a fire elemental. Finn's later relationship with Huntress Wizard represents growth. They approach each other as equals, with shared interests and mutual respect. The relationship is less dramatic than his earlier romances, but more stable. It suggests that Finn has learned from his experiences and is capable of healthier connections. The relationship between Princess Bubblegum and Marceline is the show's most significant romantic arc, developed over multiple seasons before being made explicit in the finale. The show had to navigate network restrictions that limited how directly it could portray their relationship, leading to years of hints and subtext. The history between Bubblegum and Marceline includes a period of closeness, a falling out, and centuries of distance. Their reconciliation across the series is gradual, showing them rebuilding trust and connection. By the finale, when they kiss, it feels earned rather than sudden. The confirmation of Bublin, as fans call the relationship, was celebrated as an important moment for LGBTQ representation in children's animation. For years, fans had hoped the show would make their relationship explicit, and the finale delivered. The moment was emotional, both within the show and for audiences who had been waiting for it. Jake and Lady Rainicorn's relationship is one of the show's most stable romances. They meet, fall in love, and stay together throughout the series. Their relationship is not without challenges, including Lady's pregnancy and the rapid aging of their children, but they face these challenges together. Lady Rainicorn speaks Korean throughout the series, and her dialogue is not subtitled. This creates a unique dynamic where some viewers understand her perfectly, while others experience her as Jake initially did, meaningful but incomprehensible. Jake learning Korean to communicate with her is mentioned but not shown in detail. The children of Jake and Lady Rainicorn, the pups, represent the show's willingness to let time pass and consequences accumulate. They age rapidly and become adults with their own lives, changing Jake's role from expectant father to parent of grown children in a short time. Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig's marriage is sweet and uncomplicated, providing contrast to the more dramatic relationships in the show. They are simply two characters who love each other and want to be together. Their adoption of Sweet Pea adds complexity to their domestic life without disrupting their fundamental stability. The romantic relationships in Adventure Time model different ways that love can work or fail to work. Some relationships are healthy, some are unhealthy, some are right for a time and then end. The variety teaches viewers that there is no single template for romance and that different people need different things. The show avoids the trope of romance as reward, where the hero automatically gets the love interest at the end. Finn does not end up with Princess Bubblegum just because he likes her. He does not win Flame Princess back through persistence. Relationships happen or do not happen based on mutual compatibility and choice, not on the protagonist deserving them. Ice King's obsession with princesses is treated as pathetic rather than romantic. His kidnapping attempts are not shown as legitimate courtship, but as the sad behaviour of a lonely, damaged person. The show distinguishes between genuine romantic interest and unhealthy fixation. The friendship between characters often matters more than romantic relationships in Adventure Time. Finn and Jake's bond is the emotional centre of the show, more important than any romance. This prioritization of friendship models healthy relationships where romantic partners do not replace existing bonds. The show's willingness to let relationships end, to show breakups as permanent rather than temporary obstacles, teaches viewers that some relationships simply do not work out. This is a mature message, rarely delivered so clearly in children's media. The romantic subplots contribute to character development rather than existing for their own sake. Finn's romantic failures make him grow. Flame Princess's relationship with Finn leads to her own independence. Bubblegum and Marceline's reconnection heals old wounds. Romance serves the characters rather than the characters serving romance. The finale's confirmation of multiple relationships, including Bublin's kiss, provided closure for romantic arcs that had developed over the entire series. These moments felt earned, because the show had laid groundwork across hundreds of episodes. The show's treatment of romance influenced how subsequent animated series approached the topic. Shows like Steven Universe and She-Ra built on Adventure Time's foundation, exploring LGBTQ relationships with increasing openness. Adventure Time helped expand what was possible. The parallels between romantic relationships and friendships in the show suggest that both require similar qualities: honesty, respect, communication, and acceptance. The skills Finn learns from his failed romances also make him a better friend. Growth in one area supports growth in others. The absence of romance for some characters is also meaningful. Not every character in Adventure Time has or needs a romantic relationship. Some characters are complete without partners, and the show does not treat singleness as a problem to be solved. The gradual nature of relationship development in the show, with feelings emerging over episodes and seasons rather than appearing suddenly, models how real relationships often work. Attraction grows from familiarity. Love develops from friendship. The show takes its time. The pain of romantic failure is treated as real and valid. When Finn is heartbroken, the show does not minimize his feelings or rush to fix them. Heartbreak takes time to heal, and the show allows that time. This patience with emotional processing is unusual and valuable. The ultimate message about romance in Adventure Time might be that it is one important part of life among many. Romance can bring joy and pain, growth and setback, but it exists alongside friendship, adventure, family and purpose. A full life includes romance, but is not defined by it. Prismo is a wish-granting entity who exists in a dimension called the Time Room, and his nature is one of the strangest in Adventure Time's already strange cosmology. Prismo appears as a two-dimensional pink figure projected on the walls of his room, but he is actually the dream of an old man who sleeps in the center of the room. If the old man wakes up, Prismo ceases to exist. This connection between dreamer and dream creates a vulnerability that becomes important in later episodes. Prismo's wish-granting power comes with rules that create interesting philosophical puzzles. He can grant any wish, but the wishes often have unexpected consequences based on how they are worded. The classic monkey's paw problem applies to Prismo's wishes, where getting exactly what you ask for can be very different from getting what you actually want. Characters who interact with Prismo must think carefully about their phrasing. Prismo becomes friends with Jake, which is one of the show's more unexpected relationships. A cosmic wish-granting entity and a stretchy dog find genuine companionship in each other. They hang out, eat pickles, and talk about life. This friendship humanizes Prismo and makes his eventual fate more affecting when it occurs. The Cosmic Owl is another entity in Adventure Time's mythology, a giant owl who appears in prophetic dreams. When the Cosmic Owl shows up in a dream, that dream is real prophecy that will come true. This established rule gives certain dream sequences weight that other cartoon dream episodes lack. Characters take Cosmic Owl dreams seriously because they know the consequences are real. The Cosmic Owl's appearance is distinctive, a large owl with cosmic patterns in its feathers, who often appears without speaking. Its presence alone is meaningful. The Cosmic Owl does not explain or justify the prophecies it delivers. It simply appears, and characters must deal with what that appearance implies. Death is a character in Adventure Time, not just a concept. He appears as a skeletal figure who rules the land of the dead and can be interacted with, bargained with, and even befriended. Peppermint Butler has a relationship with death that is never fully explained, but clearly involves deals and favours exchanged between them. Death's realm, the land of the dead, is a place characters can visit and return from under certain circumstances. The show treats the afterlife as another dimension rather than a permanent destination, which allows for stories involving death without permanent consequences. Characters have died and come back multiple times across the series. The 50th Dead World is where souls go when they die in certain circumstances, and it is just one of many dead worlds that exist in the show's cosmology. This multiplicity of afterlives suggests that death in Adventure Time is more complicated than a simple end. Different deaths might lead to different destinations. Golb is the embodiment of chaos and discord, appearing in the series finale as the ultimate threat. Golb is distinct from the Lich in representing chaos rather than annihilation, disorder rather than ending. Where the Lich wants to stop everything, Golb wants to disrupt everything. The entity had been foreshadowed throughout the series before finally appearing. Golb's design is massive and alien, a red creature that does not look like anything else in the show. Its appearance in the finale raises the stakes to cosmic levels, threatening not just Ooo, but the fundamental order of reality. Golb represents forces beyond even the Lich's comprehension. The defeat of Golb involves Betty sacrificing herself, merging with the entity to contain its chaos. This sacrifice allows Simon to be restored, but costs Betty her existence as a separate being. The resolution is bittersweet in the way Adventure Time often is, giving characters what they want at a price they did not expect to pay. The Enchiridion is a hero's handbook that Finn acquires early in the series. The book contains guidance for heroes, but also serves a larger cosmic purpose, eventually being used to open a portal to other dimensions. The Enchiridion connects to the show's larger mythology in ways that are not apparent when it first appears. The multiverse in Adventure Time includes numerous alternate dimensions, timelines, and realities. Characters travel between these dimensions occasionally, encountering versions of themselves or entirely different worlds. This multiverse structure allows for stories that the main timeline could not support, including dark futures and alternate histories. The Crystal Citadel is a prison for cosmic criminals, beings who have committed crimes against the fabric of reality itself. Finn's father Martin is imprisoned there, which is how Finn eventually finds him. The Citadel's existence suggests that cosmic justice exists in Adventure Time's universe, with entities who police reality itself. The nature of time in Adventure Time is flexible, with characters able to travel through time under certain circumstances, and paradoxes being possible but dangerous. The show does not establish rigid rules for time travel, instead treating each instance as its own story with its own logic. Glob, or more fully Grobgrod, is a four-faced deity who watches over Mars and the broader cosmos. Glob is treated as something like a god, with characters invoking the name in exclamations and the entity having power over cosmic events. The Martian mythology that Glob represents adds religious dimension to the show's world. The elementals are fundamental forces in Adventure Time's cosmology, with ice, fire, candy, and slime, each having an elemental embodiment. These elementals have existed across multiple cycles of the world, with different individuals becoming the elemental of their type in different eras. The elemental system adds another layer of mythological depth. The existence of multiple cosmic systems, including elementals, wish entities, death gods, and chaos forces, creates a universe that feels vast and ancient. Adventure Time's cosmology is not fully explained or mapped, leaving room for mystery while still providing enough structure to support stories at cosmic scale. The party god, a floating wolf head dedicated entirely to partying, represents the show's willingness to include beings that exist for single purposes. Some entities in Adventure Time are cosmic forces with deep significance. Others are just really into parties. Both exist in the same universe without contradiction. The relationship between magic and science in Adventure Time is never clearly defined. Princess Bubblegum is a scientist who understands magical phenomena through empirical methods. Wizards use magic that seems to operate on different principles. The show suggests that both approaches to understanding reality can coexist. The Citadel's prisoners include beings from across the multiverse, criminals whose offences are so severe that cosmic justice intervened. The existence of such a prison implies cosmic law enforcement, beings who police reality and enforce rules that transcend individual worlds. The prophecies delivered by the cosmic owl always come true, but their meaning is not always clear until after they occur. Characters sometimes try to prevent cosmic owl prophecies and find that their attempts to avoid fate only bring it about. This deterministic element adds weight to certain storylines. Prismo's death, when it occurs, demonstrates that even cosmic entities are vulnerable. His death and the possibility of his return through complex means show that nothing in Adventure Time is truly permanent, but nothing is easily undone either. Consequences exist even at cosmic levels. The hierarchy of cosmic beings in Adventure Time is never fully explained, leaving ambiguity about who has power over whom. Prismo can grant wishes. Golb can destroy reality. The Lich wants to end everything. How these different powers relate to each other is left for viewers to wonder about. The fact that Jake becomes friends with a cosmic wish-granting entity, while Finn struggles with earthly problems, highlights their different approaches to life. Jake's relaxed attitude opens doors that Finn's earnest heroism cannot. The brothers complement each other even in their cosmic connections. The Distant Lands specials that aired on HBO Max after the main series ended extended Adventure Time's story into new territory. 4 specials focused on different characters and aspects of the Adventure Time universe, providing both closure and new beginnings for various storylines. BMO, the first Distant Lands special, follows the little robot on a space adventure that takes place before they met Finn and Jake. The special reveals more about BMO's history and capabilities, while telling a complete story set outside the familiar world of Ooo. It earned an Emmy and demonstrated that Adventure Time could work in longer formats. Obsidian focuses on Marceline and Princess Bubblegum, exploring their relationship and a threat from Marceline's past. The special provided the kind of extended focus on their relationship that the main series could not always give, showing them working together as partners and dealing with challenges both external and internal. Together Again reunites Finn and Jake after death, showing them navigating the afterlife together. The special is both an adventure through different dead worlds and an exploration of what their friendship means beyond the bounds of life. It provides a kind of closure for their relationship that the main series finale did not fully address. Wizard City follows Peppermint Butler attending wizard school, exploring his backstory and his relationship with magic. The special fills in gaps about a character who had been mysterious throughout the main series, showing how he acquired his dark knowledge and what motivates him. The Fiona and Cake spin-off series, which premiered on HBO Max after the Distant Lands specials, takes the gender-swapped characters from Ice King's fanfiction and gives them their own show. The series explores what it means for fictional characters to discover their own nature and seek independence from their creator. Fiona and Cake allows Adventure Time to continue without simply repeating what the main series did. By focusing on different characters in different circumstances, the spin-off can tell new stories while still connecting to the world fans know. It represents one way that beloved properties can extend beyond their original conclusions. The legacy of Adventure Time extends beyond its direct continuations into its influence on other animated series. Shows like Steven Universe, which was created by Adventure Time writer Rebecca Sugar, built on the foundations that Adventure Time established for emotional storytelling in animation. The willingness of Adventure Time to take children's animation seriously, to trust young audiences with complex themes and genuine emotions, changed expectations for what the medium could accomplish. Subsequent shows had more freedom to explore difficult topics because Adventure Time had proven that audiences would respond. Adventure Time's approach to continuity, building a world that accumulated details over seasons while still allowing for standalone episodes, influenced how other shows structured their narratives. The balance between episodic entertainment and serialized storytelling became a model for animation that followed. The show's visual style, with its simple character designs and detailed backgrounds, influenced animation aesthetics in the decade following its premiere. The look of Adventure Time became recognizable and imitated, establishing a visual vocabulary that other shows drew from. The fandom that Adventure Time created continues to engage with the show years after its original run ended. Fan art, fan fiction, analysis videos, and community discussions keep the show alive in ways that extend beyond official content. The depth of engagement reflects the depth of the show itself. The merchandise that Adventure Time generated, from toys to clothing to home goods, extended the show's visual presence into daily life. Characters from the show became icons that fans could display and wear, turning appreciation into visible identity. The video games based on Adventure Time translated the show's world into interactive experiences. Some games captured the show's spirit better than others, but collectively they allowed fans to spend more time in Ooo and engage with familiar characters in new ways. The comic books published during the show's run and after expanded the Adventure Time universe in directions the show did not have time to explore. Different writers brought different perspectives to the characters, and the comics allowed for stories that television constraints might not permit. The art books collecting background paintings, character designs, and development materials gave fans insight into how the show was made. These books treated the show as art worthy of study and preservation, elevating animation to a status usually reserved for other visual arts. Convention appearances by Adventure Time creators and voice actors allowed fans to connect directly with the people who made the show. These events created community among fans and gave the show's makers feedback about what their work meant to people. The academic analysis of Adventure Time, including scholarly papers and university courses, treated the show as serious artistic and cultural work. This academic attention validated what fans had long known, that Adventure Time was doing something significant in the medium of animation. The show's international popularity spread it across the world, with fans in countries far from the United States connecting with characters and stories that originated in California. Adventure Time became global in ways that few animated shows achieve. The legacy of Adventure Time includes not just its direct continuations, but its influence on creators who watched it during their formative years. Young artists and writers inspired by Adventure Time are now creating their own work, carrying forward lessons they learned from the show. The streaming era allowed Adventure Time to find new audiences long after its original broadcast. People who missed the show during its run could discover it years later, and the show's quality ensured that new viewers became fans. The show continues to gain audience even now. The way Adventure Time handled its own mythology, gradually revealing depth while never losing its sense of fun, became a template for other shows. You can be silly and serious. You can have both standalone episodes and ongoing arcs. Adventure Time proved these approaches were compatible. The relationship between Adventure Time's main series and its continuations creates a rich, extended universe. Characters and storylines connect across different shows and specials, rewarding viewers who engage with all of it while still allowing each piece to stand alone. The emotional honesty that Adventure Time maintained throughout its run, its willingness to show characters genuinely hurting and genuinely happy, set it apart from shows that keep everything at safe emotional distances. The show trusted its audience to handle real feelings. The Together Again special, which showed Finn and Jake reunited in the afterlife, provided a definitive statement about what their friendship means. They will find each other even after death. Their bond transcends mortality. For fans who had followed them for years, this was deeply satisfying. The Obsidian special gave Marceline and Bubblegum the extended focus their relationship deserved. The main series could only do so much within network constraints. The special could go further, showing them as a committed couple dealing with both external threats and internal challenges. The choice to continue Adventure Time through specials rather than additional seasons preserved the ending of the main series while still expanding the world. Each special felt like a gift rather than an obligation, a return to beloved characters without diminishing what had come before. The Fiona and Cake series took the meta-fictional premise of characters who know they are fictional and explored it seriously. What does it mean to discover your existence began as someone else's story? The series found genuine drama in this strange premise. The snail that appears hidden somewhere in nearly every episode of Adventure Time is one of the show's most beloved Easter eggs. The snail waves at the camera from various locations, sometimes obvious and sometimes extremely well hidden. Dedicated fans search for the snail in each episode, creating a tradition of discovery that adds another layer of engagement with the show. The snail's occasional possession by the Lich adds a sinister dimension to what begins as a simple recurring joke. In some episodes, the snail's eyes glow green, indicating the Lich's influence. This transforms an innocent Easter egg into a reminder that evil lurks even in the background details of the show's world. The title cards for each episode, unique illustrations that appear before the episode begins, became collector's items and artistic achievements in their own right. Different artists created cards in different styles, and the cards often contain clues about the episode's content or jokes that become clear after watching. The show's background art deserves recognition as some of the most beautiful in television animation. The artists who created the environments of Ooo built a world that feels both fantastical and lived in, with details that reward close attention and a colour palette that creates mood and atmosphere. The voice performances throughout the series maintained quality and consistency across hundreds of episodes. The main cast grew into their roles, and the chemistry between actors translated into chemistry between characters. This stability gave the show a reliable foundation that allowed other elements to experiment. The writers and storyboard artists who worked on Adventure Time developed a shared understanding of what the show was and what it could be. This shared vision allowed different episodes by different creators to feel like parts of a coherent whole, even when individual episodes took very different approaches. The show's willingness to experiment, to try unusual narrative structures and visual styles and tonal shifts, kept it fresh across its long run. Episodes like Hall of Egress, Food Chain, and Abstract took risks that did not always please every viewer, but demonstrated that the show would not settle into comfortable repetition. The relationship between Adventure Time and its audience evolved over the show's run. Early viewers were often children who grew up alongside the show. By the finale, many of those viewers were young adults who had matured along with the storytelling. The show grew with its audience in a way that few shows manage. The themes that Adventure Time explored, including growing up, dealing with loss, finding identity, building relationships, and facing mortality, are universal, but were presented through the specific lens of this strange, colourful world. The fantasy setting made these themes accessible in ways that realistic drama might not. The show's humour balanced absurdity with genuine wit. Jokes ranged from simple visual gags to complex references to philosophical observations delivered through cartoon characters. The humour never undermined the emotional moments, but existed alongside them, creating a show that could be funny and sad within the same episode. The animation evolved across the show's run, becoming more sophisticated while maintaining the essential style established in early seasons. Later episodes could achieve visual effects and emotional expressions that early episodes could not, but the show never lost its fundamental look and feel. The pacing of episodes, typically 11 minutes, forced efficiency in storytelling. Every moment needed to count. This constraint became a strength, as episodes became tight and focused in ways that longer formats might not achieve. The short runtime made rewatching easy and kept the show from overstaying its welcome. The cold opens that many episodes used, dropping viewers into the middle of situations without explanation, created energy and momentum. The show trusted viewers to catch up, to figure out what was happening from context. This trust in the audience's intelligence pervaded the entire series. The recurring locations in Ooo became characters themselves. The treehouse, the Candy Kingdom, the Ice Kingdom, Marceline's cave, each had personality and history. Returning to these places felt like coming home, a comfort that built over seasons of familiarity. The minor characters who populated Ooo, from Choo's Goose to Starchy to the various princesses, created a sense that the world continued when the camera was not watching. These characters had their own lives, their own problems, their own stories. The world felt full. The way the show balanced darkness and light, fear and comfort, sadness and joy, created an emotional range rarely achieved in any medium. An episode could genuinely scare you and then make you laugh. It could break your heart and then offer hope. This range is what makes Adventure Time feel complete. The show's commitment to its own internal logic, however strange that logic might be, created a world that felt consistent despite its absurdity. Rules existed. Consequences followed from actions. The fantastical elements were treated with the same seriousness as realistic ones, which paradoxically made them feel more real. The final shot of the main series, a wide view of Ooo with all its inhabitants, provides a sense of the scope of the world the show built over its run. From Finn and Jake's treehouse to the farthest kingdoms, the land is populated and alive with characters and stories that extend beyond what any single episode could show. The song Time Adventure that plays during the finale expresses the show's philosophy about time, loss, and connection. The song acknowledges that things end, that people we love will be gone, but suggests that the connections we make exist somehow beyond the moment. It is a bittersweet conclusion that fits the show perfectly. Adventure Time ended not because it ran out of stories, but because the creators felt it was time. The show could have continued indefinitely, generating new adventures and new characters, but the decision to end it gave the show a shape, a beginning and middle and end that makes it a complete work rather than an indefinitely extended property. The world of Ooo continues to exist in imagination and in the spin-offs and specials that followed the main series. Finn and Jake's adventures may have concluded, but the Land of Ooo remains available for revisiting whenever viewers return to the show. The characters wait there, frozen in their episodes, ready to adventure again whenever someone presses play. Sleep comes easier when you let your mind wander through familiar places. The Land of Ooo is one such place now, a world you have spent time in, populated by characters you know. The treehouse where Finn and Jake live, the Candy Kingdom with its pink towers, the Ice Kingdom cold and lonely, Marceline's cave with her bass guitar waiting. These places exist whenever you want to return to them. The facts we have traced tonight are invitations back to a world worth revisiting. 150 details about a show that rewarded attention and cared about its audience. A show that started as a strange little cartoon and became something that mattered to millions of people. A show that took its own weirdness seriously and found depth in places no one expected. Adventure Time is over now, but Adventure Time is also always there. The episodes exist, the world exists, the characters wait for you to return. And somewhere in that world, Finn and Jake are heading out for another adventure. BMO is playing a game with no one watching, and the snail is waving from somewhere you have not noticed yet. Sleep well. Let the facts drift away. Let the Land of Ooo fade into dream. The show will be there when you wake up, whenever you want to return to it. For now, rest. The adventures can wait until tomorrow.